This is Alex A.K. Kincaid. Welcome to the AK Show.
A gun trust is a very special trust that we draft for our clients at Alex Kincaid Law with an eye towards making sure that your firearms remain as private as we can keep them and pass seamlessly to your heirs when you die, and provide a plan for the people that you want to be in charge of those firearms if you are ever incapacitated. So we're not just drafting a trust that's a page long or a couple pages long that says you can name somebody else on that trust as a co-trustee and they can be in possession of an NFA firearm. A gun trust is a design or a plan for you, and if you want, your family to own, share, possess, and pass on your firearms and your firearm-related accessories. On our website, we have a little PDF that our clients or anyone going to the website can download that shows you what the difference is between, or some of the major differences are between a revocable living trust, an online trust like something you create out of Quicken, or the free, or not free ones, but cheap ones from Silencer Co., versus a true gun trust drafted by a lawyer with you in mind. And one of the most significant things that people need to understand about any kind of estate planning, and gun trust planning is estate planning. It's estate planning for a specific group of people who own firearms, but it's still estate planning. And we aren't just selling a piece of paper where you fill in some blanks. Anyone could create that on a website and sell it to you with usually some pretty bad and wrong advice. If you look up some of these online trusts or the cheaper trusts that you can do yourself, you're going to see information that has been written up by lawyers who are documenting the problems with those forms. Estate planning is about advice, and it's about being a resource to our clients on what do you do when you move? What if you want to add trustees? Creating a way for you to add and remove people without actually having to amend your trust. I've seen little online trusts where people, they name 5-10 people to be co-trustees because the people creating those trusts think I can share my suppressor with all of my buddies. Okay? Well, that's great. When your buddy's no longer your buddy, and you don't want that person to be a trustee on your trust anymore, guess what? Now you have to amend your trust. The online place where you got your trust probably isn't going to help you do that, and you're going to wind up paying a lawyer to fix the problem. That's just a little example, but a real gun trust that is designed for you, it may cost a little more to set up, but the problems down the road are going to be minimized, and you're going to get a complete incapacity and after-death plan for your firearms. So one of the reasons our gun trusts are a little bit longer than an online form is because we are planning for contingencies. And I have a lot of clients who call and they say, look, my kids are too young right now, but I want to make sure that when they're older, they can be in charge, they can inherit, and they can also be the trustees or the managers of my gun trust. Easy to do if a lawyer's preparing the trust and custom drafting it for you. We can put those kids in, and as long as they meet all the requirements, they can step in and replace any acting trustees at the time that they become eligible to do so. So whether or not you have to list all of your firearms when creating a gun trust is going to depend on your state's laws. And in some places, your firearms are registered anyways, so you really don't gain or lose anything when you create a gun trust. Your firearms are on a list, you're on a list. I'm thinking of California. But in other states like Idaho, we have a little joke in the office where we say if we made people list their guns, we wouldn't have any clients. And so we have ways of drafting and dealing with issues in our state where we don't make people disclose all of their firearms or firearm-related accessories. So depending on how your gun trust is drafted, it may last longer than you do. In other words, a trust can be designed to hold firearms beyond your lifetime. And our trusts are always drafted in that way. We draft trusts where the trust is going to hold our clients' firearms if they are in fact incapacitated, but we name someone else who can step in and lawfully manage those firearms without a court order. Which is a wonderful thing, because if you are incapacitated and there's a court order that says you're incapacitated, you lose your gun rights, which can cause all kinds of problems in a household with respect to possession of firearms. In terms of passing those firearms to your heirs, a trust can last beyond your lifetime and continue to hold the firearms for your heirs, or it can just distribute the firearms at that time. It just depends on how it's drafted, and that's why we take into consideration each client's concerns and what they want to have happen when we prepare our gun trusts. Again, whether or not you can change your gun trust depends on what the trust says. There's a big divide in the trust world between a revocable type of trust versus an irrevocable type of trust. And a gun trust can be either. If it's irrevocable, you're very limited in what you can do to change what the trust says. If it's revocable, you have more leeway, and typically you can change a revocable living trust during your lifetime as long as you have capacity. Whether the people that you name in your trust need to be background checked or fingerprinted when you purchase a firearm depends on where you live, how those people are named in your trust, and what type of firearm you're purchasing. Because there are some firearms where, if you name people in your trust who will be deemed responsible persons under that term as it's defined by the ATF, you are going to have to submit a photograph and fingerprints and put their name on Form 23 that gets sent to a law enforcement agency every time you purchase a National Firearms Act firearm. Now, a well-drafted gun trust is going to allow you to add and remove people. And so it's possible to have responsible people in a trust at a certain time. You can remove them, you can purchase an NFA firearm and submit your photograph and fingerprints, and you can add people on again as trustees. So it depends on your trust. And again, this is a really significant difference between a well-drafted gun trust that is created by a firearms attorney versus a little online form where you're filling in blanks. So in the trust world, there are three main words that you have to be familiar with. The first is the grantor, and the grantor can be called the settler or the trust maker. I tell people, think of the grantor as the creator. This is the person who's drafting the trust. And usually we draft a gun trust for one person. And the reason is that one person will be the only person who ever has to submit a photograph and fingerprints when purchasing an NFA firearm. If we create a trust where there are two grantors, such as husband and wife, now we have two people who will always be what are called responsible parties of a gun trust. And there will always be two sets of photographs and fingerprints. Whether a trustee or a beneficiary is a responsible party of a trust depends on how the trust is drafted. So a knowledgeable lawyer is going to take care of you and make sure that you have the simplest option available to you in your gun trust. Another word that you have to be familiar with in the gun trust world is the trustee. And trustees can be co-trustees. The way we draft our gun trusts, you can name people as co-trustees on another form, and those people can be in possession of your NFA firearms. Successor trustees are the people who come after you. They succeed you. So if you become incapacitated or you die, you have listed an order of people in your trust who can take over and manage your firearms. If you're married, you can name your spouse, and that person can take charge of the firearms and can sell them. She or he does not have to go to court and get a court order to do so, because the trust controls those firearms and the person who is in charge of the trust can lawfully be in possession. So there are co-trustees who are trustees with you during your lifetime, and there are successor trustees who succeed you if you become incapacitated or when you die. The third term that you need to know is, what is a beneficiary? The beneficiary is simply the person that enjoys the benefit of the trust assets. So during your lifetime, that's you. And you may have other people who are also named in the trust as beneficiaries. But when you die, those trust assets are now there for the benefit of someone else. And those people are named in our gun trusts. So the beneficiaries will change when you die.
This is Alex A.K. Kincaid, and thank you for watching the AK Show.